Welcome to the Renewed Wife podcast. I'm Sierra Cook, and on this podcast we talk through different topics that have to do with your husband's pornography use and how that affects you and your marriage. Today we're going to talk about triggers. So just in case you don't realize or know what that is, it could be things like, let's say you're in that place right now where you can't go out of the house, or you can't go on a walk with your husband without feeling triggered that he is looking at someone. So you pass by an attractive woman and that makes you feel, that anger because of the betrayal that, he has put you through, that you're working through, and the betrayal causes trauma. Okay, so that's how you end up with a trigger, because it triggers back to that trauma that you are experiencing. And I want you to know that it's completely normal. So my husband and I have both went through hundreds of hours of training and counseling and support groups and research on our own to learn more about pornography and how it affects the brain and how it affects marriage and how to work through that. And so one big thing is learning about triggers, okay? And so just know that it's completely normal to have these triggers. So what exactly is a trigger? So trust is the background of all trauma and triggers. You gave your husband trust. You gave him your full trust whenever you vowed to him on your on your wedding day. You gave him your absolute trust and devotion. And so when that trust is broken, that's what causes, betrayal and trauma. And so his betrayal of, what he has done is causing you real trauma. So triggers are created in the context of broken trust. And they are reminders of being betrayed, of his selfish choices. And it's your entire being, not just your mind. So know that what you're working through, what you're going through with being betrayed and the trauma has affected your entire being, not just your mind. It affects your soul. It affects everything, even physically. And so some example of external triggers is anyone who looks at a movie that could, potentially have nudity in it and stuff. A certain location, a certain thing that you look at on your phone that triggers. For example, for me, a long time, the incognito tab triggered me because I had seen a search on my husband's phone that said, can you erase the incognito tab? Something like that. And that was when he, on our discovery day, when I realized he had been using pornography. And so that was a trigger for me for a long time. We've worked past that now, but it was a trigger. So these external triggers are outside of you. Things that you're not just sitting there imagining, or things that you see outside of you. People, places, things, and it's all unique to you. So internal triggers are what you feel. It triggers a thought. So it's inside of you, your feelings, your thoughts that could be triggering. Your feelings may be rejected, disrespected, betrayed, hurt. These can be random, and it's also just a normal part of healing. You start to feel anger for what seems like no reason, but it's one of these internal triggers. So remember that if you weren't betrayed, you wouldn't be having these feelings. So give yourself some grace, because you could get caught up in feeling guilty for feeling these things, but you need to give yourself grace because you were betrayed. You are going through trauma. And you have to accept that you'll never understand why he did this. So if you can go ahead and get to that point where you accept that, it's going to help you minimize those triggers, because if you're dwelling on that, why did he do this? You're never going to understand, because your brain does not work like his. He has trained his brain in a certain way over time using pornography that you have not done. And there's no way for you to understand how he could do this, because you wouldn't do this. So don't compare yourself to others as well. If you see others, there's a million ways that you can compare yourself. Just be careful and mindful of comparison, and don't get caught in that trap. So the way that you view triggers is going to affect you. If you think, I'll never get over this, I'll feel this way forever, or if you think this is temporary and I'll work through this. Those are two very different mindsets that you can feel how different those mindsets are. And so think about how you're thinking about this. If you have that attitude of this is never going to end, Like, okay, it's okay to feel that way, but I'm going to turn this around and say, no, I don't want to feel that way. What I want to feel like is I'm going to get through this. And so just be mindful of how you're thinking about it. And so you can evaluate how you behave when you're triggered. This is something you're going to have to work through, because if you continue to have emotional outbursts, whatever it is when you're triggered, then healing is not going to take place, and you're going to delay your own healing. And yes, this was him that caused this. He is the one who hurt you, but it is your responsibility still to take control of the way you act, of your emotions, and not let them control you. So you are still the one who, is responsible for that, even though he has hurt you. So triggers can teach you what's not yet healed in your heart. So if you pay attention to them, and let's say that every time a woman walks by who's at least just barely even attractive, it bothers you and you feel triggered. That could be a sign of insecurities that you need to work on within yourself. So once again, yes, he caused this trauma, he caused all of this, but it's your responsibility. And triggers can be a sign to you of what you need to work on more if you let them be. If you don't let them consume you and consume your thoughts, and you allow them to help you make positive changes. So to help yourself work through some triggers that you may not even notice that you're having, you can write them down and what you currently think about it and what you want to think about it. Okay, excuse me. So go back to the, we're talking about like the woman who walks by and it triggers you because you are, spiraling into these thoughts of, is he looking at her? I can't stand looking at attractive women myself, all of these things. So you can write that down and think, I don't want to feel that way. How do I want to feel about that? I want to just walk by her and not even think about it. And so I'm going to work to get to that point. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to meditate on God's word, and I'm going to work through until I figure out how I don't have to be so triggered about it anymore. And that's one thing that I'm going to help you work through. My husband and I created this 6-step program that helps couples, you and your husband, to start working through these things. And we go in depth about triggers. And, I've given you some information and some things you can do. There's a lot more that I can't go over all on just like a podcast. But that's one, we spend an entire week on just triggers because I think it's so important to work through those to get to the healing that you want to achieve within your marriage. And we do that. You can find more information about the 6-step program on renewed-marriage.com. And that's where, you'll just find a lot more details there. I don't want to give you too much and make this video too long, but triggers are something you will have to face. And I know you're already probably facing them. Everyone's different. Some people have a lot all the time, and some people don't have very many. But it is something that you will most likely face. So for him and for her. And that's why we do the 6-step program. My husband and I together, he works with the men and I work with the women. And we take 6 weeks and we coach you through these things. And we have different topics each week that we walk you through so that you feel like you know what you're doing. Because I remember being in that position where it's like, what do I do next? I don't know what to do. I'm having all these issues. I'm experiencing all these different emotions, feelings. I'm angry, I'm having all of this, and I don't know what to do. I don't know who to turn to. I don't know where to get advice. It seems like everywhere I look, people are okay with this, but I'm not okay with this. And so who can help me? And that's exactly why we created this program, so that you don't have to feel that way. You can have support, you can have action steps to take, and you can actually start working towards healing, rebuilding trust, and moving on and leaving this, season of your life and marriage in the past. You can get to that point. I'm living proof of that. My husband is living proof of that. And we want to support you and help you. So please feel free to reach out to us. You can find me on email at info@renewed-marriage.com. Please send me any questions you have. If you just want to talk, I'm here to support you and encourage you. Or you can go to renewed-marriage.com to find everything that we have as far as resources and the programs that we offer and coaching. But if you want to connect with us, you can do it through email, or you can also find us on social media at Renewed Wife and Renewed Husband and Renewed Marriage. I look forward to seeing you or I guess, to discuss more of these things with you on the next episode.